Hello, I'm Helen Fu, the host of this TV show, Health Factor with Helen Fu. I'm also a certified nutritionist, Chinese herbalist, and a specialist in diet, nutrition, weight loss, diabetes, and cancer. Have you ever wondered, what's the connection between our mind and the body? What's the role of our attitude in our daily life, relationship, or even success? Today, I'm very excited and honored to have a special guest on the show. Patricia Raskin is a nationally known multimedia radio talk show host, award-winning producer, speaker, and author. She's recognized by her peers and the listeners as the powerhouse voice behind the lifestyle, health and wellness, and inspirational talk radio. Over the past 25 years, Patricia has interviewed nearly 2,000 guests on her Patricia Raskin Positive Living television and radio programs. And her programs have aired on Fox, PBS, and NPR affiliates. She is the author of Success, Your Dream and You, and Pathfinding, 7 Principles for Positive Living. Patricia is the host and producer of WPRO's Patricia Raskin Positive Living and Positive Dating, and AM 790's Positive Business, all heard on the Cumulus Broadcasting Radio in Rhode Island. Welcome to the show, Patricia.
Hi, it's wonderful to be here. Really excited to be here.
So, Patricia, we are all just very excited to hear your stories, and I want you to share your journey experiences with the audience.
Well, you know, it's interesting, Helen, because it all started right here, almost literally in a studio very similar to this. It started in 1982 when cable TV was just in its infancy. And I was a teacher and a guidance counselor in those days. I actually started my career as a teacher in Chelmsford, Massachusetts.
Oh, really?
I was there for 4 years. I was at the Westland School, and I think that there was another school as well. And it was, I think, the Harrington School. Westlands and Harrington, as I remember. It was a while ago. And in 1982, I had heard about cable TV, and someone said to me, you know, you ought to go down there and talk to them and see if you can do something on television. Well, I'd never done television before. I was a child singer, so I had been performing when I was little and had some talent there. So I called the station and I said to the person at that time, and this was in Rockport, Massachusetts, I said to her, you know, I was a guidance counselor. I had gone from being a teacher to a guidance counselor, and I was really working with children and really helping them to live healthy lifestyles. And I was feeling a lot like I was putting Band-Aids on kids and not really making a dent. And so I got very involved in prevention and wellness and holistic health back then when it wasn't fashionable. So I called the station and I said, you know, I'd like to do a show on positive people and positive living. And I remember the woman saying to me, well, I think that's a great idea. Just come on down and bring your crew and do this. And I said, what? And that was the very beginning for me of doing this show. And again, in those days, I called it Positive People, but I'm doing the exact same thing now that I did then. The difference is I have a bigger audience. I'm now on radio. I did do television for a while, but I'm now on radio, which I really love because, you know, it can go anywhere. And particularly today with the internet and with the webcams, anybody can hear it anywhere. So it's extremely versatile, and people can see you now on radio because of the webcam. So I've stayed with my vision for all these years, and it has not been an easy path because when you're a pioneer and when you have a calling and you stay with it and you make that kind of commitment and vow, if you will, it's a challenge because we're not in a positive world. We're not.
No, we are not. I agree.
Just turn on the news and you'll see that we're not.
Yeah, mostly.
And what is emphasized is the negative. How many divorces do we have? How much unemployment is there? So they'll tell you there's 50% divorce rate, or they'll tell you there's 10% unemployment. But they forget the other half where it's working.
There
They
you
don't
go.
talk about the 90% of people who are employed, and they don't talk about the 50 or the 40% or the 60% of people who are in happy relationships or marriages. We don't talk about that. So if you, in fact, Helen, listen to the news all the time, and that's all you did, you put blinders on, you sat in a room, and you listened to the news, or you read some of the major headlines in the paper, you wouldn't be happy. You'd also be scared.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Because what happens then is that that information becomes programmed in our brain. And that's what we start signaling and looking for. It's kind of like if we feed ourselves really good food, then our bodies run well. And if we feed ourselves junk, I mean, I'm preaching to the choir here, right? So then we don't feel well. Well, if we put those thoughts into our brain every single day that aren't good, then we come up with the world is unsafe, it's negative, people will hurt us. If I'm vulnerable, I will get hurt. And those are the messages. I will lose. So my work is about showing the other part that's also valid.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Very valid,
Yes.
but isn't emphasized enough. So I do that through my programs, and my work has grown over the years.
Wow, that's just profound, and I totally agree with you. And just because thoughts become things, because I was trained in Chinese medicine, and so we always look at the whole person, spiritual, emotional, and physical health together. And I think our mind is just so important, very powerful.
And you'll find, and I'm sure you see this, that when someone feels really good, they just say, I feel really good. They usually feel good mentally, physically, and spiritually.
Yes.
It goes together.
Absolutely.
Usually if you really have an issue physically, there's something else going on emotionally.
I agree. And actually, a lot of the physical symptoms are associated with mental and spiritual and emotional health. And as a matter of fact, a lot of people came to me with pain, back pain. And 90% of the pain actually is associated with emotional issues. When they have unresolved emotional issues such as anger, resentment, grief, and sadness, that's why they have the back pain.
Yeah, I'll tell a story about that. It was very interesting. About a month or two ago, I had lost a friend who was a colleague in radio with me when I lived in North Carolina and was doing a lot of radio. He was very dear to me. He died very young in his 40s suddenly of a health issue. And I was here, and I never really got to say goodbye. So I developed this really bad cold, lung congestion. And I went for my acupuncture treatment. And I said to my acupuncturist, you know, he said, well, you've really got things going on with your lungs. And I said, does that correspond to something in the body? And he said, of course. He said, lung issues correspond to unresolved grief
and sadness are stored in lungs and colon.
And it was so amazing because, I mean, it was in the middle of the summer. Not the summer, but it was at a hot time toward the fall when it was warmer. And it came on very suddenly, and it lasted for a while. And then I got the treatment, and of course it went away. But I did not really know I didn't have anyone to express that to. And I was here and no longer there. So I had one friend who we had in common, and I talked to her on the phone. So there's so much involved in the whole physical connection to the spiritual connection. Of course, Louise Hayes talks about that a lot in her books.
That's true.
The body can heal.
Yes, and I see a lot of clients who came to me with digestive problems, respiratory problems such as coughing, allergies, and sinus infection, and all of this actually trace back to the unresolved grief and sadness, even when they were kids.
So what I try to do in my work, really, and the reason I wear my bumblebee pin.
There you go,
over here. I forget which side it's on. The reason I wear that is because really and truly, what I truly am is a bumblebee pollinator and a catalyst. What I do, if you look at what the bumblebee does, if you study, they go to the flower and they are very focused, but they're buzzing. they're humming, and they're pulling out the pollen, and they're going like this, and it's out there in the public. That's exactly what I do. I find my guest. I find that, I pull that information, I extract that, that's the good honey, and I go like this through the airwaves.
Very nice. We need a whole lot more people like you in this world.
And it's interesting because if you watch the Jerry Seinfeld movie, which was about the bee, one of the things you realize is that if we did not have bees, we wouldn't have color.
Seriously?
We wouldn't have color. I mean, bees are very, very important.
That'll be a very dull world.
Right. Very important.
Very sad world.
And so, and even the way I operate, because I'm high energy, it's like I'm bzzz, and then I move, bzzz, and I move. You know? So, yeah. And that came to me through a meditation. Yeah.
Well, it's amazing that you've interviewed over 2,000 guests on your programs.
Well, over this many years I have, yes.
So is there just one guest? Tell us an example. Yeah. Can you think of anyone?
There are several, but I will tell you the one that really touched me to the core. She's very famous, and she's a real icon and a real spiritual woman. And most people will know this name. Her name is Maya Angelou.
Oh, yeah.
And I've had her on twice by phone. But the first time that I had her on, I remember when the interview was over, that my whole body shook.
Oh, wow.
And she's so profound. She sang, she talked about love and forgiveness in that beautiful, mellow voice that she has. And she talked about how, you know, we have to forgive. And she said something about, you know, people do things and often don't realize what they're doing. They do it because of what, even people who are doing horrible things, horrific things, for whatever reason that they're doing it, it wasn't necessarily meant in some way to hurt you. Sometimes it is. But if you can look at that and you can forgive them for where they are, I think if there's one thing I've heard over and over from guests is forgiveness is key.
Yes.
Because when you have that anger and when you store that anger and it builds up in that way, it eats at you.
Yes.
You see that in your work. And a lot of the work you're doing, a lot of liver problems come from anger, heart issues from anger. You know, when they talk about people having a broken heart, I really believe that.
Oh, yeah.
And I believe it affects your heart. I mean, how many times have you heard people, I've heard this, who've been together for years, married for years. One dies, and the other one dies shortly thereafter.
Yes.
I mean, there's so many stories. There's also so many stories of incredible hope and people who have given beautiful things. There's a woman, either in New York or Boston, her name is Melinda Blau, who wrote a book called Consequential Strangers, and how people can give you blessings and miracles who you may never see again. But we're there at that moment. Those are the things we need to focus on. It's called, I just interviewed a woman on my show, her name is Diane Collins. Diane's from New York. She wrote a book called Quantum Thinking.
Oh, yes.
And it's all about this. Also, McTaggart's work on the intention experiment. She had millions of people think about healing a leaf that was broken. They broke a leaf and putting it together, and it actually started to knit itself back together with the power of the thinking. I mean, look at the placebo effect.
Oh, absolutely. The placebo effect is profound.
We don't... I don't think that we really recognize the power of that kind of thinking enough. Look at the law of attraction.
Yes, yes. And a lot of doctors don't believe in the placebo effect. They say, oh, it's all in your mind. But our mind is powerful. Actually, there is a saying, mind over medicine. And so a lot of times we don't need medicine, and we just need to change your attitude, you know, from negative into positive.
Yeah, there was a study that I was told, I'm just giving you a sketchy part of it, but a control group thought they were taking a drug to heal themselves. But in fact, they weren't. But they believed it was the drug. And I think it was supposed to be the drug, and there was a mistake. And so they ended up not getting the drug. And 73% of them healed.
Yes. And I work with a lot of cancer patients, and a lot of my cancer patients, when they believe they are getting help just by talking to an herbalist or a healer, they feel better instantly. And so that's the reason why we need to give them hope, to give them the positive thinking, and they can do it.
Yeah. And I think what people don't realize is it's not just positive thinking. It's not just taking an affirmation and saying, I am, I'm making this much, or I am healed, or I am wonderful, or I am beautiful. It's actually imaging it to the point that it is in your subconscious, so that you actually see this picture and it becomes real for you.
Yes.
And the brain believes it, so you move toward it.
Yes. Yeah. So tell us about the 2 books. You wrote 2 books.
I've written 2 books. They've been a while now. I need to write a 3rd book. I really do. I'm getting there. They were 10 years apart. The first one was called Success, Your Dream in You. And I had 5 principles in that book.
Yes.
So the first P that I have is purpose, which is having a purpose, a vision. If you have that, Rick Warren's book, A Purpose-Driven Life, if you have that, that's number 1. Number 2, you have to have a plan. So you have to put that on paper in a business plan, or really have that thought out so it's on paper on the computer somewhere. The third one, which is absolutely critical for any success, is passion.
Yes.
You can't just have passion, but passion is critical because that's the driving force. That's what gets you to do this without having to motivate yourself. The 4th P is persistence. And that's when the passion isn't working because you've been knocked down a little bit. You've gotten a few rejections. Things haven't worked. It's not happening. So the passion is decreasing. So the persistence is not banging the door down and pushing, but it's looking at, do I have the right strategy? Do I have the right timing? Do I have the right market? Do I even have the right plan? And reassessing. The 5th P is patience, which is the most difficult for me and for many people.
Yes.
Because what patience means is that you are faithful with trying, you're planting seeds, okay? So you plant 10 seeds, right? Some will grow into little bushes, some will grow, and some will grow into tall trees. But we don't know which ones. So we have to use that same kind of energy with each one, and that's patience, and you have to wait. You have to till the soil and wait. That's patience. I added a 6th one after I wrote the book, which is prayer. Because I think that whatever faith you are, even if you're not a religious person or are agnostic, there is a higher power. And so prayer, I think, is really important.
That comes to a spiritual connection. A lot of people are lacking in this country. And in the world, I see a lot of people, they don't see the higher power and the love, the spiritual love there. Yeah, and so how about your 7 principles for positive living?
That's in my 2nd book.
Okay.
Pathfinding. Okay, so the first principle there is to honor your heritage. I think that's really important. I'll tell you why. No matter whether you like it or not, you might not like your heritage. You might not like your country of origin, but your genes come from there. So if you go back in the generations and you look at your mother and father and your grandparents and your great-grandparents, and you look at what they've achieved, some of that has been passed down to you. So I say, look at it, honor the good points, and carry that on. And tell your children and your grandchildren your stories. When I wrote that book, I wrote it with my father. And I sat down with him. My father died about 2 years ago at the age of 95.
Oh, wow.
And I sat down with him, and I got his stories about his childhood. He came from immigrant parents, about his college years, about his years, professional years. And they are in the book. So I will always have those. So I think it's very important to write those stories down. If you don't want to write them, get a tape recorder. Sit down with your parents and your grandparents, pull that tape recorder up. You can do it on your iPhone today. I mean, it's so easy. Just have it. And when they tell you that story, record it.
Yes.
Because that story will then pass with them.
Yes. That's very valuable.
Very valuable.
Yeah.
The second principle is to be in the precious present. And that's about being here now, right now. Because this moment I have with you now, Helen, is a once-in-a-lifetime moment.
Yes.
And even when I'm with you again, I will not have this exact same moment with you.
Well,
So honor
that's
that.
so important because a lot of people actually live in regret, about the past or fear or worry about the future. They forget about living in the present.
Or they're with you and they're texting. Or they're thinking about the 10 things they have to do. And they've missed what's here right now. Very important for this day and age.
Yes.
Really.
Yes, to stay connected.
And we're also living in an area that's, very busy, somewhat driven. We're in a very strong business community. We're New Englanders. There are other parts of the country that are slower.
Yes.
So this is a faster-paced environment.
I agree.
Yeah.
We talked about North Carolina. That's so much slower over there, and
is.
people are relaxed. And here, just people are so driven and so impatient. Yes, and interesting. And so, how about the other principles?
Number 3 is, it's a long one, but I'll translate it. It's use your human imperfections to perfect your life. Turn your obstacle into an opportunity. Turn your problem into a solution. What is that issue? Because it's a gift. You'll say, what? That's not a gift. I can't pay my rent this month, or my mortgage, or I just lost a client, or I'm going through an illness, or my child or my parent is sick, or there was an accident. That's not a gift. Well, no, there were some awful things that happened, but there are parts in that. There are pieces that are gifts, and you just have to find them. Because if you don't, you will sit and you will be sad and angry and sorrowful forever. And you can choose that if you want.
Yes.
But what is, is. So let's look at what is now and what can we do with that?
That is so important. Yes.
Number 4 is honor your talents, your gifts and talents. And I think a lot of us don't do that. So for example, people might say to me, you're just so good on the air. You're such a good communicator. And I could say, because it's easy for me. I mean, standing up in front of a room is easy for me, which is, what is it? Public speaking is one of the greatest fears.
Yes.
Right, so that's easy for me. But now throw technology at me. And I really struggle with it. I have people help me, and I've learned because I have to, but I've learned by rote. I don't understand the processes behind there because I don't have a mechanical, technical brain. So I work with those people that do, and I admire them. And when I say to them, oh, you're a genius, they go, Don't say that. Don't go, it's a gift we have been given. And we've been given that gift to use it, and to hone it, and to practice it, and to make it better.
Yes.
So we can continue doing what we do.
Well, just treasure it. And
the 5th one is easy. Stay positive.
Okay. Easy to say, but not easy to do.
Right. See the glass is half full. And we've talked a lot about that. I think that's really an important one. See the positive side. The 6th one is protect your relationships. And I mean all of them. All of them. That's the person who waits on you in the restaurant, the person who pumps your gas, the person who shovels your driveway and cleans your house, and your accountant, your bookkeeper, whoever it is who is there and makes a difference in your life. Even if you see them once a week, once every 2 weeks, once a month, they're helping you. And they're gifts. Honor them and respect them, and do not take them for granted. Let alone, I'm not even talking about the people close to you. I mean, that's a given. And sometimes we treat the people closest to us
the worst, probably.
Worse than we do the people that are in semi-quote strangers.
Yeah, that's so true, because I think it's easy for people to appreciate other people or strangers even, but a lot of times they take it for granted from family members, from loved ones, from spouse or children. They feel like, oh, whatever they're doing, I know, I appreciate it, but I don't have to say it. But if they're not doing something perfect, I've got to say it. So
That's right.
it just sounds so critical and native all the time.
That's right.
That kind of spoils
and even
the
those people,
relationship.
the stranger who might hand you $1 or listen to your story and help you or guide you, makes such a difference. The seventh principle is believe in miracles. That's my favorite one in the book. Now, it doesn't have to be the huge miracle of, gee, I had a near-death experience. I almost had an accident and I didn't. Those are miracles.
Yeah.
But there are also the little serendipity coincidences, which I don't believe in coincidences.
Everything happens for a reason.
So those are miracles too.
Yes.
The person who called you, you were just thinking about. The letter that you were waiting for that just arrived, that you just thought about. The item that you needed, and you turn around and there it is. You know, there's something that you wanted to find, and you went to the store and it was right in front of you. Those are little miracles.
Yeah. And tell us, we only have a couple of minutes left now, and it's fascinating to hear all these stories. Tell us a little bit more about your upcoming new program, Positive Dating.
Oh, that's
What do you want to achieve?
Well, all of my shows, Positive Living, Positive Dating, and Positive Business, they're all about showing what's working correctly or right in our state. And if we have problems, what can we talk about? So in business, it's sales and it's entrepreneurship and it's customer service. In living, it's health and wellness and anything to do with lifestyle that's positive. On dating, it's online dating, it's relationships and dating, intimacy and dating, communication and dating, all of those things, because there are a lot of discouraged people out there that aren't meeting the people they want. They don't know how to, or they're getting rejected. So it's all about giving people hope. If you had me distill it down to one thing, my programs are about giving people hope.
Wow. Hope is what we need. A lot of people need.
And it's my calling, and it's my mission and my passion.
Yeah.
And it's not easy because I took my calling and I turned it into a business. And I figured out how to do that. And
you are a smart woman.
Well, thank you. It's a challenge. But it's something that I believe in, and because I know I'm supposed to do it, it works.
So give us one last word of wisdom. What do you want the audience to remember?
Keep your dreams alive. Keep your dreams alive. Make sure that they're, doable. In other words, don't ask for something that you know you won't get. Write them down, say them, believe in them, image the things that you really believe are possible. And get some help, get some coaching. Really helps. All of us need coaching. Top personalities in the world have coaches.
Oh, absolutely.
And know there's a lot of beauty in this world. And find it. And get support. And you know what you should have as a New Year's resolution? Those people that are dragging you down, don't be around them. Even if they're close to you, distance yourself. Feed yourself good things nutritionally, energetically, and with people, and with communications. Make it all good.
Wow. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, Helen. It's been a real honor and pleasure to be with you. And thank you for allowing me to share my thoughts.
And that's great thoughts there. I'm so honored to be the producer and host of this TV show, Health Factor with Helen Fu. And we've had a lot of guests on the show. I've had a lot of fun and hope you've enjoyed it as well. This is the last show of 2013. I wish you all a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. As Patricia closes her radio shows, stay healthy, stay happy, get the support you need, know that you can make your dreams come true. See you next year. Bye-bye.